right. Guys, let's do this thing. We're going to get into the podcast. I'm going to move this slightly. There we go. That's better. So we're going to get into the podcast. We're going to be talking today about becoming the person you need to be to become the athlete that you want to be. Before we get into it, as always, the goal of this show, guys, is to help athletes build their dream careers in sport, help athletes reach their true potential. And honestly, all in all, the goal of this show is to help you become the person that you need to become in order to achieve the goals you want to achieve. Now, before we get into it, my big ask of you guys, as always, is share the show around. If you've been here before, if you've tuned in before and you've gotten value, share it with a friend, share it with a coach, share it with a teammate. Share it with someone who's going to benefit from this message. We know what we deliver here. If you've tuned in, you know what we deliver here too. So share the live stream. If you're coming back on the replays, make sure that you're sharing this around as well. And we're going to get into the show talking about becoming the person you need to be in order to become the athlete you want to be. Let's get going now in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about becoming the person that you need to become in order to become the athlete that you want to become. Now, when it comes to becoming the person you need to become before becoming the athlete you want to become, that's a mouthful. When it comes to achieving that, the first thing is you've got to ask yourself, what are the goals you have for your career? Because on this show, we speak mostly to people who are trying to make their sport their career, trying to build a career in their sport. And so if your goal is to build a career in your sport, your goal is to become a full-time athlete, that's how you make your money, that's how you make your living, then that is going to be a very, very high-level goal for you to achieve. And as a result, that is going to be a very, very difficult path. So when it comes to achieving that goal, when it comes to achieving this path, there's a lot that goes into it. So the first thing I need you guys to think is, what is that end goal? So is that world champion athlete? Is that just, making your living at it? Is that retiring your family and, your kids? Like, how rich are we trying to get here? What achievements do you want to actually achieve? Now, let's say you're going right for the top. The goal is world champion. The goal is retiring my family. The goal is making sure my kids never have to work again. Now you've got to ask yourself, what does that person look like? And the reason this question is so important, the reason that I'm bringing this to you guys, is because so many athletes say they have a goal like that. I want to do this for a living because I want to retire my family. I want my wife to never have to work again. I want my kids never to have to work if they don't want to. I want to be the generational change that, gets us out of this rut and all that good stuff. But then you look at their actions day to day and it doesn't back it up. Because if you want to be that level, if you want to be that level of an athlete, that level of rich, that level of successful, the actions you take every day need to show that. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. So the first thing, let's say that's your goal. You want to be, top of the top, multi-millionaire from the sport, all of those good things. Ask yourself, what does that person look like? So what is that person doing right now that allows them to be that person? Well, chances are they're working real fucking hard. So if you right now are kind of slacking off, not really taking your training as seriously as you might need to, not looking into, building up a brand, a business, all these other things on the outside of the sport, that's probably something that multimillionaire retiring his family and his future kids and all of that is doing. You look at the ones who have made the most money in the sport. You look at the ones who have been the most successful in the sport. You're interested in them as people. You're not just interested in them as athletes. Look at the Conor McGregors. And again, think of Conor what you will right now, but the dude is, if not a billionaire, very freaking close. So look at the Conor McGregors, right? When that dude was coming up, you were excited to watch him. Yes, because he was a good athlete, but also you were excited to see him as a person. You were excited for, the brash press conference. You were excited for everything that came with Conor McGregor too. So if you were trying to get to that kind of level of rich, that kind of level of fame, that kind of level financially, athletically, everything else, You've got to ask yourself, what am I going to do that's going to make people interested in me other than being a good athlete? Because being a good athlete is great, and that's obviously a key. Conor McGregor wouldn't have gotten as big as he was if he sucked at fighting, because then he wouldn't have made it very far, and no one would have ever wanted to tune in to watch him fight. But he had that thing. He had that thing that people wanted to tune in to watch. You look at a guy like Sean O'Malley right now. You might think he's a goof, but the dude's a millionaire before he turned 30. He made millions before he even reached the top 15 in the UFC. Why? Because he was doing things like starting a podcast with his coach. He was doing things like starting a Twitch streaming business, or making money on Twitch, making money on YouTube. He was pursuing other interests in the beginning that were going to allow him to grow his platform and allow him to make the money that he wanted to make, regardless of how far he ended up going with fighting. So yes, again, the skill is paramount. The dude is an absolute animal, and that's the reason he's going to be as successful as he is. But without these other interests and without that hard work outside of training, he wouldn't be nearly as successful as he is right now. So when you're looking at where you want to end up, when you're looking at what level you want to get to financially, you've got to look and think, what does that person look like? And this doesn't mean you have to try to become Conor McGregor or become Sean O'Malley, but start looking at the things that they're doing. And obviously there's lots of other examples, I know, but I'm just using those two because those are two of my favorite ones. But look at Sean O'Malley and look at the things that he's doing outside of just fighting. He's got his YouTube channel and he's making good money doing that. So is that something that you'd be interested in starting to learn about, starting to work on, understanding YouTube, understanding how to edit videos, understanding how to get people excited about you, who you are, and what you're doing outside of just the time that you're spending training? He's got a podcast going. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? Starting a podcast, teaching people about something that you enjoy, or just shooting the shit with your buddies. And then as your name grows, the podcast grows. As the podcast grows, financial opportunities start to pour in. What kind of things are you going to do that are going to make people interested outside of just the sport? Because if you're going to make it to that financial level, people have got to give a shit about you. So now, once you start to find those characteristics, pursuing other kind of ventures, they're obviously hardworking. They're not afraid to put themselves out there. They're consistently documenting their lives. What kind of things are these guys doing that you need to start doing if you want to get to that level? So once you start looking at that, now start looking at where the gaps are. So you might look at what Sean O'Malley's doing and being like, yeah, man, like being a Twitch streamer would be super fun, but I have no idea how to do that. Start looking into how to become a Twitch streamer on top of your your career in MMA. Now, this doesn't mean take away from your MMA career to do it. This doesn't mean take away from your boxing career to do it. But what you need to understand is that if you're going to make it to those levels, Sean O'Malley didn't start a podcast last week and have it pop. He's been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and that's why it gets so many views, so many downloads, and in turn, so much sponsorship and makes him so much money. He was doing it before he was who he is now. And so if you're looking to make it to that kind of financial level within the sport as well, start looking at those other interests and start looking into how to start those things, how to start dabbling in those things, how to start working on those other characteristics and those other things you need in order to become the person that you're trying to be, in order to reach the type of level that you're trying to reach. Is this making sense? So again, becoming the person before becoming the athlete. Because if Sean had only ever focused on his training, yes, I'm sure he would have still been a successful athlete, but I highly doubt he'd be making the kind of money that he is right now, or he'd have the kind of platform that he does right now, or people would be as excited about him as they are right now. But he's done a ton of work on the branding, on understanding who he needs to be as a person and how to make that pop so that people are excited about him as a fighter. Not to mention, on the other side of that, guys, it comes with pressure. If you're at that kind of level when you're competing, mentally, you need to be in a good place. If you follow Sean O'Malley, and he's still a good example, so one that I'm going to roll with, if you follow Sean O'Malley, the type of work this dude does on his mindset is unbelievable. All the way back to his first interview with Joe Rogan before he had the crazy hair and all that kind of stuff. His first interview with Joe Rogan, I remember him talking about his meditation routines and all of those kinds of things that he does every single day. And learning those kinds of tactics, learning those kinds of things now when your name is smaller, your platform is smaller, etc., helps you build yourself into the person that can handle the kind of platform that he has today. So again, the thing I really want you guys to take away from this is whatever your goals are for your career, you've got to understand that that's going to take development as a person, not just as an athlete. So start by looking at exactly what those goals are, exactly what you want to accomplish, and then start finding people that have accomplished similar levels of success and start looking at what they're doing. And as you start looking at what they're doing, how they're operating, what kind of people they are, what kind of work they do on themselves, start to understand the things you can take from that to start helping yourself level up to that level as well. Because I'm not saying you need to do the exact same things as these people, but take pieces from it. Take lessons from it. Start to understand what you like, what you don't like, what you can take from their success, and what you can apply to yourself and continue to apply to your career as you grow. This is something that I do with coaches all the time. I look at people who are further along the path than me. I look at the style of social media content that they're putting out. I look at the type of work they're doing. I look at the type of education processes that they follow, all for the purpose of leveling myself up as a person too. When I watch videos of Phil Daru or other high top level coaches in the industry, I don't necessarily like every single thing that I see. I like a lot of it because these guys are smart, but a lot of the time I'm taking the things that they're doing, I'm learning from them, and then I'm applying it in the way that makes sense, that resonates well with me. So I'm not trying to be Phil Daru, but I'm trying to learn as much as I can from a guy who's in the same industry as me, who's further along than me, who has seen more success than me. And I'm trying to learn everything I can from him so that as I continue to grow, I continue to grow to higher and higher levels. And eventually I reach the levels that he's at. And eventually I continue to surpass those levels too. And that's no shot at the dude. Like, he's an absolutely incredible coach and he's been a great mentor. But I'm trying to learn as much as I can to grow to the highest level that I can. And he is one of the people that I can learn from. So guys, look at the people that are further along the path than you are, that have best accomplished the things you're trying to accomplish. And then from there, start to grow. From there, start to take the pieces that resonate with you and start to look at the things that you can start doing now that can push you further along that path. Yeah, training really hard is one of them. But so many people think that training hard is going to separate them from the pack. Guys, training hard welcomes you to the game. Training hard allows you a shot. But these other things that you're doing outside of the gym, when it comes to, development as an athlete, but these other things you're doing when it comes to development as a person, those are the things that are going to set you apart. Your work ethic welcomes you to the arena. Your ability to make yourself interesting, your ability to continue to stay relevant, your ability to make money in different areas other than just the sport. All of these things are the things that allow you to go further. Your work ethic welcomes you to the game. Becoming the person you need to be, developing internally to the level that you need to, is what's going to separate you and allow you to play the game on your terms. So guys, I hope you got some value from that. I hope you learned something. If you did, I would love to know what it is. Drop me a message on social media, leave a review for the podcast, subscribe to the show, the YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And then make sure that you share this show around with a friend, with a teammate, with a coach, with someone who's going to benefit from hearing this message. The goal of the show is to help athletes. And we do that most when we have word of mouth on our side as well. So again, guys, I appreciate you all, whether you're tuning in live or whether you're listening back on the podcast or the YouTube channel. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.